I walked into that party thinking I'd surprise my billionaire fiancé. Instead, I found him with his hands all over another woman in the corner. What happened next changed everything about my life, my money, and my future. This is my story. Hey, beautiful souls, before we dive into this wild story, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell because you're about to hear something that will shock you. Trust me, you don't want to miss how this ends. Now, let me tell you what really happened that night. You know that feeling when you think you're living in a fairy tale, but it turns out you're actually in a nightmare? That was my life 3 months ago. I'm Keisha, and I thought I had it all figured out. I was engaged to David Mitchell, a tech billionaire worth over $2 billion. Yes, you heard that right. Billion with a B. We met at a charity gala 2 years ago. I was there representing the nonprofit where I worked as a program coordinator, and he was the keynote speaker. I'll never forget how he looked at me across that crowded room. It wasn't just attraction, it felt like recognition, like he saw something in me that no one else had ever seen. He walked right up to me after his speech and said, "You have the most beautiful smile I've ever seen, but your eyes tell me you're thinking about something much deeper than this party." He was right. I was thinking about how all these rich people were throwing money around for one night while the communities I worked with struggled every single day. But David seemed different. He listened when I talked about my work, my dreams, my frustrations with the system. He didn't just nod politely like most wealthy guys do when you talk about real issues. He asked questions, took notes, and 3 weeks later, he donated $500,000 to our organization. The proposal came 8 months later. Picture this: a private jet to Paris, dinner at the top of the Eiffel Tower, and a ring that cost more than most people's houses. The rock was so big I could barely lift my hand. David got down on one knee and said, "Keisha, you make me want to be the man I never knew I could be. Will you marry me?" I said yes, but looking back, I think I was saying yes to the fantasy, not the man. Because when you're a girl from the south side of Chicago who grew up in a single-parent household, and a billionaire is telling you he loves you, it's hard to think straight. It's hard to see the red flags when they're being waved behind designer curtains. The red flags were there, though. David had this way of making me feel like I was the most important person in the world when we were alone, but when we were around his friends, his business partners, his family, I felt invisible. He'd introduce me as his beautiful fiancé, but never mention my work, my education, my opinions. I was an accessory, a pretty brown face to make him look progressive and worldly, but I ignored all of that because I thought I loved him, and I thought he loved me. I thought we were building something real together. I thought wrong. The night everything changed was supposed to be special. My girl Carmen was throwing a housewarming party at her new penthouse. She just landed a major promotion at her law firm, and I was so proud of her. David was supposed to be out of town on business, but his meetings got canceled last minute. I thought it would be perfect to surprise him and bring him to meet more of my friends. I spent 3 hours getting ready. I wanted to look perfect, not just for the party, but for him. I wore this stunning black dress that David had bought me for my birthday, paired with the diamond earrings he'd given me for Christmas. I looked in the mirror and felt beautiful, confident, ready to show off my man to my friends. I called David 3 times on my way to the party. Each call went straight to voicemail. I figured he was busy, maybe on a call with investors in a different time zone. That was normal for him. His phone was always buzzing with something urgent, something that couldn't wait, something more important than whatever we were doing. Carmen's building was one of those glass towers that touches the sky, all modern and sleek. The doorman knew me by name because I'd been there helping Carmen move in the week before. The elevator ride to the 40th floor felt like it took forever. I was excited, nervous, and a little bit proud. I couldn't wait to see David's face when I walked in. The party was already in full swing when I arrived. Carmen had gone all out, catered food, an open bar, a DJ, the works. The place was packed with successful Black professionals, the kind of people who were changing the game in their industries. This was my community, my people, and I wanted David to see this side of my world. I walked through the crowd, saying hello to friends, accepting compliments on my dress, scanning the room for David. Carmen grabbed me by the arm and pulled me toward the kitchen. "Girl, you look amazing. Where's your man? I can't wait to meet him." "He's here somewhere," I said, still looking around. I wanted to surprise him. That's when I saw him through the crowd near the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. He was there, but he wasn't alone. He was standing close to a woman I'd never seen before, too close. Intimately close, her hand was on his chest and his hand was on her lower back. They were looking into each other's eyes like they were the only two people in the room. I felt my heart stop, actually stop. Like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed it so tight that nothing could flow in or out. The sounds of the party faded away. The music, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, it all became white noise. All I could focus on was my fiancé, the man I was supposed to marry in 4 months, holding another woman like she was his whole world. I stood there for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds, trying to process what I was seeing. Maybe it was business, maybe she was a client, maybe they were just talking and I was misreading the situation. But then she laughed at something he said and he tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. That's when I knew. That gentle, intimate gesture that he used to do with me that I thought was special, that I thought was ours. My feet moved before my brain could catch up. I walked through the crowd like I was in a trance, my eyes locked on them. As I got closer, I could see her more clearly. She was white, blonde, probably in her early 30s, beautiful in that effortless way that expensive skincare and personal trainers can buy you. She was wearing a red dress that probably cost more than I made in a month at my old job. They still hadn't seen me. They were lost in their own little world, whispering to each other, laughing at private jokes. I was close enough now to hear pieces of their conversation. "Can't keep doing this," she was saying, but she was smiling when she said it. "I know," David replied, his voice soft in a way I recognized. "But I can't stay away from you, Jessica, you know that." Jessica, the name hit me like a slap. This wasn't some random woman. This was someone who mattered to him, someone he'd been thinking about, someone he'd been wanting. Someone whose name he'd never mentioned to me, not once in 2 years. I cleared my throat. "David." Both of them turned toward me like they'd been caught stealing. David's face went through about 5 different emotions in 2 seconds: surprise, fear, guilt, calculation, and finally, that fake smile he used when he was trying to sell something. "Keisha, baby, what are you doing here? I thought you were staying in tonight." The audacity of this man. He was trying to make me feel like I was in the wrong for showing up to my friend's party, like I was the one who had some explaining to do. "I came to surprise you," I said, my voice steady even though my whole body was shaking. "Looks like I'm the one who got surprised." Jessica looked back and forth between us like she was watching a tennis match. "David, who is this?" "This is Keisha," he said, and I noticed he didn't say my fiancé. He didn't say the woman I'm supposed to marry. He just said my name like I was some acquaintance he'd bumped into at the grocery store. "I'm his fiancé," I said, looking directly at Jessica. "The one he's been hiding from you, apparently." Her face went pale. Not the kind of pale that comes from shock, but the kind that comes from guilt. She knew about me and she'd been seeing him anyway. "David, you said you were single," she whispered, but loud enough for me to hear. I. David started, then stopped. For the first time since I'd known him, the man who always had an answer for everything had nothing to say. People around us were starting to notice. Conversations were stopping, heads were turning. I could feel the weight of dozens of eyes on us, but I didn't care. I was tired of being quiet, tired of being polite, tired of making everyone else comfortable while I suffered in silence. "How long?" I asked, my voice getting stronger with each word. "How long have you been seeing her?" "Keisha, let's not do this here," David said, reaching for my arm. "Let's go somewhere private and talk." I yanked my arm away from him. "No, I'm done with private. I'm done with you controlling when and where we have important conversations. Answer my question, how long?" He looked around at the crowd that had gathered, his jaw tight with anger. David hated being embarrassed. He hated not being in control. But for once, he wasn't the one calling the shots. "6 months," he said finally. 6 months, half a year. While I was planning our wedding, picking out flowers, tasting cakes, dreaming about our future, he was building a relationship with someone else. While I was defending him to my friends who said he was too good to be true, he was proving them right behind my back. "6 months," I repeated. "And you proposed to me 8 months ago, so you've been cheating on me for most of our engagement." "It's not what you think," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Really? Then what is it? Because it looks like you've been playing both of us." Jessica stepped forward. "I'm sorry, I didn't know. He told me he was single. He told me he'd never been serious about anyone. Never been serious about anyone." I looked at the ring on my finger, the ring he'd put there while promising me forever. The ring that suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "Is that what you told her?" I asked David, "That we weren't serious, that I didn't matter?" "Keisha, you're being dramatic, it's complicated." "No, it's not complicated, you're a liar and a cheat. That's not complicated, that's just pathetic." The crowd around us was getting bigger. I could see Carmen pushing through people trying to get to me. I could see friends and strangers alike pulling out their phones, recording this moment that was about to go viral. But I was beyond caring about any of that. "Do you love her?" I asked. David looked at Jessica, then back at me. "I care about both of you." "That's not what I asked. Do you love her?" "Yes," he said quietly. "I do." Those two words broke something inside me that I didn't even know was still whole. But they also freed something that had been trapped. They freed me from the lie I'd been living, from the fantasy I'd been clinging to, from the man who'd never really seen me as anything more than a pretty face and a good story. I pulled the engagement ring off my finger. It came off easier than I expected, like it had never really belonged there in the first place. I held it up so everyone could see it, this symbol of a love that had never been real. You can keep this, I said, pressing it into David's palm. And you can keep her, but you don't get to keep me. David's face changed. The guilt was gone, replaced by something harder, meaner. Fine, but don't think you're walking away with anything else. The apartment lease is in my name, the car is in my name. Those designer clothes in your closet, I bought them, that job you love so much, I got it for you, without me you're nothing. The silence that followed was deafening, even the music had stopped. Everyone was staring at us, waiting to see what I would do. David was trying to humiliate me to make me feel small and powerless. He was using his money like a weapon, trying to remind me that I came from nothing and could go back to nothing. But something had shifted inside me. Standing there, surrounded by my friends, my community, my people, I remembered who I was before David Mitchell. I remembered the girl who'd worked 2 jobs to put herself through college, the woman who'd built programs that changed lives, the person who'd never needed anyone's permission to be brilliant. You're right, I said, my voice clear and strong. You did buy me things, you did get me that job, you did try to make me dependent on you, but you know what you didn't buy? My education, my skills. My relationships, my integrity, my strength, those things were mine before I met you and they'll be mine long after you're gone. I turned to Jessica, good luck with him, you're going to need it. Then I walked away. I walked through that crowd with my head held high, my shoulders back, my dignity intact. I walked out of that party and out of that life and I never looked back. The weeks that followed were hard. David tried to make good on his threats. He had the car repossessed. He had his lawyers send threatening letters about the apartment. He even tried to get me fired from my job. But what he didn't count on was that I'd built real relationships with real people who saw my worth beyond what he'd given me. Carmen let me stay in her guest room. My coworkers rallied around me when David tried to interfere with my job. My friends reminded me every day that I was strong enough to rebuild my life, and slowly I started to believe them. 3 months later, I'm in a better place than I've ever been. I left that job that David had gotten me and started my own consulting firm, helping nonprofits build sustainable programs. I'm working with organizations across the country, making real change, earning real money that no one can take away from me. I found out from mutual friends that David's relationship with Jessica crashed and burned 2 weeks after the party. Apparently, she realized that a man who would cheat on his fiancée would cheat on her too. Who would have thought? His business took a hit when the story went viral. Turns out investors don't like putting their money behind someone who publicly humiliates women. Karma is real and she doesn't play. But the best part, I'm happy, really truly happy. I'm not checking my phone every 5 minutes waiting for someone else to validate my worth. I'm not walking on eggshells trying to be perfect enough to deserve love. I'm not shrinking myself to fit into someone else's idea of who I should be. I learned that real love doesn't come with conditions. It doesn't come with threats. It doesn't ask you to choose between your dignity and your security. Real love sees you, values you, and lifts you up. Real love doesn't hide you from the world, it proudly shows you off. Ladies, if you're in a situation where someone is using their money, their connections, or their power to control you, please know that you are worth more than what they're offering. You are not a commodity to be bought and sold. You are not a trophy to be displayed when convenient and hidden when not. You are a whole, complete, valuable person who deserves to be loved for who you are, not what you can do for someone else. Don't let anyone convince you that you need them to be successful, to be happy, or to be whole. You had value before they came into your life, and you'll have value long after they're gone. Your worth is not determined by the size of someone else's bank account or the price of the gifts they buy you. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. If someone is treating you like you're not enough, believe them and then find someone who knows you're more than enough. If someone is asking you to be smaller so they can feel bigger, walk away. You were not put on this earth to shrink. Ladies, never let anyone make you feel small because of their bank account. Your worth isn't measured by their wallet. If this story inspired you, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. What would you have done in my situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, subscribe for more real stories about love, money, and finding your power. Until next time, keep your crown up, queens.